Hey. Awkwardly awesome podcast. Guess what? It starts right now. Right now. Today I'm so honored to have my great friend and colleague Leidy on. Let me tell you a little bit about Leidy. Pia is a consultant, speaker, teacher, and singer-songwriter with a background in support and inclusion for people with disabilities. He works with families and organizations throughout the USA and abroad. He has an international reach. Among his passions are inclusion for all people, improving workplace communication, building relationships, employee support and retention, writing personalized songs, and practicing and teaching mindfulness and stress reduction. Pia lives in Madison, Wisconsin with his wife of 36 years, Betsy. Please help me welcome to the show, Pia Leidy. Pia, are you coming? Oh, hey, there you are.
I'm just helping you welcome me to your podcast. Hey,
thanks for being here. I so admire the work you do, and I want to start by giving people the taste of how you got into the field you're in now.
Yeah. Well, the field, I guess, to use that word, I guess the field would be, it's kind of a broad field because it has to do mostly with figuring out ways that people who tend to be marginalized or excluded can be brought into our community life. And so what that means in terms of like how I got my first job, well, we don't have to talk about how I got my first job because that would take another hour. But how I got into this field of work was just that I somehow felt, I don't know, I guess I would use the word a calling, that there are people who are left out of a lot of stuff in life, and people who are held back, and people who are considered to, not be as fully a citizen as other people. And that somehow led me to begin a career working with people who have intellectual and developmental disabilities primarily. Also some people who are aging into needing more support and just help to be able to live life on their own terms. And so I worked for an organization called Options in Community Living for about 19 years and learned more than I could ever imagine about what it takes to fully embrace this concepts of community living and community participation and valued social roles and inclusion, and met some of the greatest people in the world through all those years. And for the last 15 years or so, maybe 16 now, I've been working independently doing consultation and training, and speaking at conferences, which is how I met you, Jason. And then in the last year or so, trying to figure out what does this whole pandemic mean about not only life as we all know it, but life as folks that may already be more socially distanced than they would want to be. What does it mean for people all over. So yeah, anyway, we started talking about, you've got this podcast and you asked me to be on it. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you. I know that my life is what it is because my parents stood up from the time I was really young and said, "Dude, you're going to be." We're going to help you be included in society. So then they just instilled in me the attitudes and the expectation and the confidence that I had something to offer. And so at this point in my life, I kind of take it for granted, but inclusion is quite a struggle for a lot of people. How would you describe the importance to a person of being included in the world?
Yeah. I guess the way I think about inclusion, which would be probably a word and a concept that I might not have ever been aware of if it weren't for the work that I found myself doing, because I think in some ways what I mean by inclusion is, I think, such a natural, it's a way that most people like live and exist and care about each other. And so we notice, oh, somebody feels left out today. That's not cool. Nobody should feel left out of anything. And I think the risk for some people that I've gotten to know along the way, that are already, at risk of being kind of in the margins of our communities and of our thinking, is that, it turns out there are people who are more apt to get left out of stuff. Okay, so I'm like this Mr. Social guy who knows all kinds of people, and I've got a voice and I've got a way of communicating that basically, I can say, hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I want to do this today. And all kinds of people can't say that in those kind of words, or maybe don't feel like they've got their own power in their life to be able to do that, or maybe they've actually been under the control of other people. And sometimes the other people can be families. Sometimes the other people, more often the other people are possibly well-intentioned, but maybe not going down the right path with folks. Institutions and organizations that look at someone who has an intellectual developmental disability as someone who needs to be protected and taken care of, more than as someone who needs to be experiencing citizenship and a full life and relationships and valued social roles. And it's really, I give credit to my years working for Options here in Dane County, Wisconsin, as really being kind of the teachers for me about what that is. I forgot what your question was, but I hope I started to answer it.
This is how. What? This is how to get the handle. Now I'm hearing the echo. Shoot.
I hear no echo.
You haven't. No, I'm not. This is so hard for most of us to get a handle on, because like you say, if we have access to the social communities we want, and friends all over. It's it's hard to even think about the terrible feeling it would be to be left out and to have things you want to do, but then not have people like staff members or families saying, "Oh no, 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 we don't think you're ready for that." Then you ask 6 months later and don't think you're ready for that yet.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are just so many examples of what can go in the wrong direction, in my opinion, for people who are seen as being fundamentally different for some reason, or as in the case of a lot of folks that who might be in their 20s or 30s or 40s or 50s, but because of the way the world maybe has looked at the disability, or seeing the disability first before seeing the person, could be seen as it's kind of a child in a grown-up body. That person's kind of more like a kid than an adult. And boy, once you start to have any relationships with people who are fully adults, and who have some sort of a disability, you spend any time with someone and you're going to realize, no, that person is like, not only is that person an adult also, but that person has more in common with me than whatever our differences might be. And that's, I think that's one of the most important things about the visibility of people. We're living in a time where we can look back and we can see a history of people like that should be put away somewhere because they're so different, or there are experts who can take care of them, or they are a burden to society. And there's this arc that goes toward full participation and full community and full inclusion, that recognizes, wait a minute, it doesn't matter what label that person has. It doesn't matter what the person's quote functioning level is. It doesn't matter. A lot of things don't matter, but what does matter is, does that person have people around them? And if not, we need to do something about that. But are there people that see who the person really is? Like, there's a whole person that how they walk or don't walk, what their behavior is or isn't, what their speech is or isn't, it doesn't matter at all in terms of the capacity to contribute and do amazing things in this world. And so that's part of this whole work and it's not just work like a profession somebody has. It's just like every day, like day to day, are we bringing people in or are we leaving people out? Are we inviting people, or are we thinking, nah, they'll probably get invited to something else by somebody else? So that's sort of like keeping it real in terms of just day-to-day stuff. And I have much more, by the way, not to dismiss anything that our professionals and our human service system can do to improve lives for people. But it sure hasn't. Well, let me say that in a better way. I've got much more faith in families and neighbors and neighborhoods and communities than I do in our service system, in terms of actually making a difference for what matters most to most of us, including me and pretty much everybody who I know, which is just about finding friends and getting a good job and having roles in the community that matter, that show other people that we can actually contribute and make a difference. And that kind of stuff, I think it's a human need and a human concern. It's not about someone without a disability compared to somebody who is labeled as having a disability.
Fascinating. So a lot of people listening might be like, I hear what you're saying, like I I would love to get to know someone with a intellectual disability, physical disability, but I don't work in the field, and my life just doesn't intersect this other group that much. Like, what advice would you give a listener for how they can start to connect without changing their occupation? Oh, yeah, like what's the first step of bridging the gap? Because until you know this group of people, you can make all kinds of things. In. So, what's the first step in bridging the gap?
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, a neighbor of mine came up to me. We were both just like taking a walk, and we ran into each other. And she said, you know, it occurred to me, and we have spent a fair amount of time together. And she said, it occurs to me recently that I have this vague idea about what you do, but I don't actually know what you do as in your profession. And she's like, what do you do? Like, it has something to do with people with disabilities. And so, I gave her the very quick 30-second, like, here's, this is what I do. And she said, I'm embarrassed to say this, but I don't know a single person with a disability. Like, I know nobody with a disability. And by the way,
she would have no context for really what you were talking about then.
Yeah, I mean, she could. You're right. We would have had to have probably a longer conversation, but I didn't. The time wasn't right for that, and also I didn't. What was important to me was that she was saying, and she's somebody who knows a lot of people. She is known by many people in our community, and she knows a lot of people. And she's basically saying, I don't know anybody with a disability. And we can set aside the fact that she probably knows some people with disabilities, but she just doesn't know that those people have disabilities. So, okay, there's that. But what she said to me was, like, is there a way that I could meet somebody with a disability? Is that really weird and awkward? Is that wrong for me to say that? She said, because I sometimes will, like, I'll kind of go the other direction. Like, I will avoid contact because I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to come across like I don't know how to respond. And I think that's just, it's a really common thing. And what I appreciated about her saying this was that she was being completely honest and just sort of putting it out there, like, kind of like, I probably shouldn't say this, but like, that's actually true for me. And so I said, I can introduce you to more people than you have time to actually meet, in the next week or two. So that's not going to happen. But let's figure something out. So we did. And I'm not saying that was like a life-changing thing. Maybe it was. But what she was trying to figure out was just, could somebody, and this is the problem, I think this comes from our history of separation and segregation and assumptions about people. And it comes from also a well-meaning system of, like, what happens when, a child has CP or a child has Down syndrome, and how do they grow up? And, sort of like what ends up happening. They have special ed and they're with a lot of other kids with disabilities. And then at what point do they become seen as, like, I'm just a regular neighbor of yours, or I'm just like a person that, works at the store that you come to or whatever. I think what she finally started to see was she doesn't have to do anything differently. It's just, how do you interact with anybody that you encounter? And part of the problem for her was that she doesn't encounter a lot of people with disabilities, because even in I guess this was 2019 when we had this conversation, there's still a lot of separation. And, I don't know who's going to be watching or listening to this podcast, but that's really, I think, all that any of us can really do as citizens and community members is just keep looking for ways of, including everybody, and not making assumptions, and giving a lot of people the benefit of the doubt who maybe haven't been given the benefit of the doubt before. Presuming competence is something that is a phrase that you will sometimes hear in the world of disability supports, and it's really important. Like, the default can be, I bet you've got more going on than you've been given credit for, or I bet you can do more than some other people maybe thought you could, and I'm going to assume maybe that you can. And so, let's go for it and experiment. Like, there's nothing majorly wrong that's going to happen if you just take a chance. So I think some of this is about, like, just having that sense of adventure and, like, let's just try it out.
What a great shoot. Is that going? What a great default. Saying thinking, I bet you have more going on than I think. Let's see. Let's see what all you can do, instead of thinking, oh, this person just doesn't have much going on.
Right. And I just think in any way that we can listen to another person's story, not to get all personal with someone who maybe we're just meeting, but try to understand, I don't know, I'm gonna misquote that. There's a well-known you can't fear someone whose story that so there's something like that. And I'm probably getting it a little bit off, but it's essentially that, like, someone who might seem very different, or someone who might make you at first feel uncomfortable, or someone who you might feel like, this is not the kind of person I have ever hung out with or have ever really, known or been friends with. Like, let's not just let it stop at that. Like, maybe what you haven't experienced is seeing the whole human being, through that person's story. And I do feel pretty hopeful that things are changing. And, my career about this is like 35, 36 years or something. And I've seen a lot of things change. Some things have changed so slowly or almost not at all, but some things have changed a lot over that time. And, and I'm not talking, I do appreciate the fact that in the media, in TV screens and movie theaters, we've seen more people with disabilities, and I think that's great. Don't get me wrong. I think that's really important. But I also think that's not the same thing as being with people who have a disability as just being like with anyone else. You know what I mean? Like, seeing somebody who's in a show, lots of great shows, or a movie or whatever it might be, Instagram or TikTok or anything. It's really about, like, are we all able to wake up with something to look forward to? That's kind of one of my gauges, is like, am I going to bed and are people who I know and are people that I'm pretty sure are somewhat more isolated, maybe more lonely, waking up, going to sleep, waking up thinking, I'm going to see somebody today that matters to me, or I'm going to at least have a phone call or FaceTime or something with someone who actually cares about me as a person, not as, a client of the service system, or not as somebody that they feel sorry for, but like as someone that they really want to be with. And I think that's what we're moving toward. And let's keep moving that way, in my opinion. Coffee.
Coffee
Late today for me, it's a little bit risky this time of day. This is fully caffeinated coffee too. And you know what? On Zoom and these other platforms, it's like, you've seen this, like people are like, oh yeah, I'm having a cup of coffee. And it's not actually coffee, but this is coffee.
So folks, the Pia is actually drinking coffee. He's actually drinking coffee.
That's right.
On this discussion, before you play a song, which I'm assuming from your body language you probably are going to do.
I was thinking about just doing a little song, yeah.
But before that, I think when we think of engaging anyone new or anyone different, we sometimes think, oh my gosh, it's going to take hours of my time, and I just don't have that. But even a 5-minute conversation where you're present with someone can really show them that they matter and that they're important, and it can frankly make the day.
Oh, yeah. I mean, honestly, this is like, I wouldn't be showing up today with you to sort of talk about, okay, everybody, are you ready to make like a huge commitment to, like, change the world or change somebody's life? Great. If you want to, we need that. But really it really is more like you just said, Jason. It's more about, this is just, I think it's important for people to understand that the status quo tends to still leave a significant population of people just out of the mix. Out of the mix. You could look it up. I don't have the statistics with me right now, but I think national unemployment right now is something like 6.7% or something. If you have a disability, it's way, way higher than that. I don't want to misquote it, so I'm not even going to say a figure, but it's multiple times more than the unemployment rate across the board. So it's like you should see a person who has a disability who is working and dispel any myth that you might have about why you wouldn't hire someone with a disability. You should, it's basically, really, it is just, let's not assume anything about people being cared enough for or cared enough about that it fills these basic human needs that we all have for connecting to other people. I was at a conference in Canada a couple of years ago, and a woman came up to me in between these sessions I was doing, and she said, she was a woman who uses a wheelchair, and she said, I'm going to tell you something that I think you already know, but I didn't hear you mention that specifically, in your keynote. But do you understand that a person like me who has a disability knows the difference between someone who is with them or with me? She says, I know the difference between someone who is with me because they want to be with me compared to someone who's with me because they have to be with me or because they're paid to be with me. And I said, thank you for saying that, because I feel like I have a different perspective than you do on this, but I understand that. I do know that. But hearing you say it is just, you're another person, the most recent person, in my life, to remind me of that in a way that I can't hear that too often. Like you can't say that too many times to me. And I will share that with a lot of other people. And the point is, we need people. Like, we are social animals. We need people to be with us. We need people to be in our lives. We need people to care about us. We need people to visit us if we're sick, or call us, or invite us to events that are going on. We need people to treat us like we're just a person, and not someone that is needy or special. And that's just stuff that, like, we need to keep. I think that has to be kind of front and center. Is just we have to relate to people like we're all kind of in this weird, sometimes crazy life together, because we are. And so, yeah.
This is so valuable. Thank you, Peter. You were going to play a song before I ask you another question. So I would love to hear your song.
Well, it's the song I was going to share is it's a song based on a tune by this band. As far as I know, they only released one CD, but maybe I'm missing the boat on that. But anyway, one of the one CD I knew about, I love it, and it's a group called Monsters of Folk, and they have the song that's
Monsters of Folk.
Monsters of Folk, and they got a song that's called "The Right Place." And the first time I listened to their song, "The Right Place," I just thought, okay, number one, I love that song. Number two, I'm going to borrow it, AKA steal it, but just borrow it for my own purposes. And I'm going to, like, change the lyrics a little bit, which is something I do often. And because when I heard it, I thought, I want to create a little something out of this that is really about inclusion, that's really about, how do we keep at the forefront what's most important to many of us? So, how do you feel about where you're at in your life right now is kind of what this song's about. So it's called "The Right Place." Oh, and then a few months ago, I made a couple of tweaks to it, because we have this thing going on that's a pandemic. It's
what? I haven't heard about that.
You what?
I haven't heard about the pandemic.
Yeah, there's a pandemic. And so I sort of made this song into this is basically the COVID version of the song. It goes like this. Do you like where you're living? Do you like what you do? Do you like what you're seeing when you're looking at you? Do you like who you're with while you shelter in place? Even with Zoom or FaceTime, you're still face to face. Are you washing your hands many times every day? Staying home all you can till this thing goes away. And remembering this, don't touch your face. I know we're gonna get through it while we shelter in place. Spending your day at work or at play, tell me, does it feel alright? And even though we have to be quarantined, are you able to see the light? The people, yeah, the people that you see, do they make for good company? 'Cause you need them and they need you too. Who do you love and who's loving you? If you like where you're living, if you like what you do, if you like what you're seeing when you're looking at you, if you're keeping your distance, but you can still see a face, then you've got the right feeling. You're in the right place. Yeah, you've got the right feeling. You're in the right place.
Wonderful, wonderful. I love the line, you need them and they need you.
That's it, man. That's it. Thanks. I thank you for liking that line, because that's kind of, it all kind of comes down to that. And that's the strange thing about this work of, whether it's professionals or whether it's neighbors and families, like nobody disagrees with that sentiment. Like I need you and you need me. Like, it isn't, we don't go through life with just this sort of a one-way relationship of like, wow, you sure are lucky that I'm in your life because you need me a whole lot. I mean, me needing you, I don't think so, but you need me. No, like we don't, that's not the way that real relationships are designed, in my opinion, or play out when it's healthy. And, you know, that's just kind of a good question, I think, like who is in your life, who loves you? And is it family? Is it friends? Is it family and friends? Is it family and friends and people that you don't even know who have encountered you on, you know, a podcast or social media, and maybe can get to know you? Yeah. Anyway, who do you love?
So I love the term imperfect best.
Yeah.
And what does imperfect best mean in the context of community and inclusion to you?
Wow. To me, if I think about the term imperfect best, and I know that you and I have had some conversations and about this, I'll just tell you, I'll just be honest and just say, I'm just off the top of my head, I'm just going to say what it means to me when I think about that right now, that question. I think imperfect best means, let's not be afraid to be ourselves and admit that we don't have everything exactly like maybe the rest of the world thinks we should, or even maybe even I don't have everything going on just exactly right, like the way that I think I should. And I don't think I really want to lie awake at night thinking about everything that's wrong or going on with me that's not the way I want it to be. I think it's more about just doing the best we can with what we have to work with. And it doesn't mean never think about self-improvement. It doesn't mean let's not try to be the best that we can be. But sometimes the best that we can be, I guess actually all the time, the best that we can be is may not meet other people's expectations, and I can live with that. It's kind of the keep on trying, just keep on trying, which is something I have to tell myself every day. Keep trying to like do the next right thing, or keep trying to sort of become closer to who you're supposed to be. And then when you have a day where it's not happening, don't beat yourself up about it, because you got tomorrow.
I know you have a meditation practice, Peter. How does meditation for you tie into doing your imperfect best?
Yeah. Oh, well, here's what I've learned over probably 7 or 8 years of really getting into mindfulness practice. Here are a couple things that I've learned. Yes, I have a meditation practice that I do every day. I do it sometimes when I'm sitting. like people might imagine. I don't really sit on a cushion usually. I sit on a chair, sometimes on the floor. And it's about a 15-minute, 20-minute sometimes practice that I do that I've learned from a few teachers, one in particular. But also, I do this when I'm walking sometimes. I do it when I'm out for a run. I like to run. And what I do, the reason that I practice mindfulness meditation is because I know that I am prone to getting carried away by my thoughts and my feelings.
Me too.
Yeah, I I have a lot of like conversations just with myself, like while I'm driving or while I'm walking. I mean, I can kind of go down a whole bunch of different rabbit holes, and I know this, and I know it takes away from. Well, I guess what I've learned is that even without any kind of official diagnosis of, attention deficit disorder or anything like that, I know that I have an attention problem myself. I can get distracted pretty easily. I don't have road rage, but what I do have that's kind of like road rage is that I have a tendency to react to something really quickly without thinking about it. Whether it's a thought I'm having, a feeling I'm having, something my wife says to me, something that someone else says or does. And I know that I've often over the years had a tendency to react in a very mindless way. And that gets me in trouble sometimes. And it's not helpful. It's something that I would like to learn practices that help me unlearn that and learn how to respond. And that's what my mindfulness practice has done, is help me like, can I just get like 3 seconds, like from the moment this happens to the moment that I decide how I'm going to best respond to it.
So the reaction isn't instantaneous. You creating more time between what happens and responding to it.
Yeah. And I am a work in progress. This will be, the rest of my life. I'll still be continuing to work on this. And the reason that, a practice, a meditation practice or mindfulness practice, I think the reason that we use the word practice is because it is something that on a regular basis takes practice. It might be yoga. I know that you are a yoga practitioner. I'm not as often as you, but I also practice yoga. But we call things like this a practice because it's like work that's going to be like, I don't mean hard work necessarily, sometimes maybe, but a work that is, we do this kind of like we might go to the gym and work out, or kind of like we might go for a swim or a run or whatever. It's because we understand the value of like working on stuff maybe makes us healthier. And in terms of mindfulness and many kinds of meditation, compassion meditation or loving kindness meditation, there's a practice of that is working our minds in a way that at least many people that I've learned from, including someone right here in Wisconsin, Richard Davidson, a world-renowned neuroscientist, who says that now that science has shown us that we can learn these skills that bring us a greater sense of well-being, because that's not disputed anymore by science. Like science says, you can learn these skills, that we have a responsibility to not only help our own well-being be greater, but also help the well-being of others improve as well. And that has been a way of kind of tying in some of these values that have been so important to me in my career, and in my relationships in general, kind of tie together, because we can learn how to respond more maturely than just simply reacting quickly. We can learn how to build our capacity to be more compassionate towards ourselves and towards others. And if we're kind of awake enough to understand or to see that there are ways that we can learn how to do this, then at least according to Richard Davidson, why don't we do that? Because it actually makes our world better, and our current practice in the world isn't necessarily working that great to make it better. So let's keep looking for better ways to build community and build friendships and build understanding with our fellow human beings, and hopefully with our whole planet.
Oh, so well said. So last thing kind of ties this all together. You not only talk inclusion, you believe it is your life, and as part of that, you're a natural connector. You've connected me to so many people, and it brings up the story of how we connected, because it is phenomenal.
I'm so grateful for that day. I can't even tell you, Jason.
You're from Wisconsin. Did we meet in Wisconsin? Where did we meet?
I guess you're just asking me that, so I'll tell this, because I think
it's pretty much rhetorical. I believe me, I still remember where we met.
No, I know. We met in Sacramento, California, and at a conference. And my recollection of that day is that we both came to this conference. Kind of thank you, folks from Supported Life Institute that put this conference on. That unbeknownst to each other, we were both asked to come and be speakers at this conference. And I guess I did my stuff, and I had seen you or met you, but I don't think I was actually in on like your sessions. I don't know. I feel like
you had to get back home because it was your wedding anniversary.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You're right. It was early May, and that was wow. So Betsy, my wife, I have to remember tonight to thank her for being the one who did the official signing off on it's okay for you to be in California, even if it's really close to our wedding.
Holy cow!
So
wow.
I'll tell you what. Here's what I do remember.
Thank you, Betsy. Thank you.
I mean, I know I did get home in time, and we celebrated that anniversary. And I think that was number 34, maybe, because I feel like it was, I think that might've been in 2018 when we first met. But anyway, so yeah, but on my way out, I'm like, hey, see you later. Hey, nice to meet you. Sorry, I'm not going to be able to stick around here. So Jason gives me this book. So, I mean, I guess, I don't know, Jason, if people who are who've seen this podcast or watched your YouTube channel or whatever, or see you on Facebook, they know about your book, which is awesome. Okay. And
actually, it's awkwardly awesome.
It's awkwardly awesome. Seriously, if anybody is seeing this or hearing this and has not read this book yet, you definitely read this book.
The book. Okay.
I read that book. I didn't quite finish it on the plane, but I got a good way through the book, and then I finished it when I got home. I don't need to go on and on. It's a great story about. It's a story of what I really appreciate most, Jason, about this is that you're basically in that story in your book. You're just kind of telling it like it is. You're not, there's nothing that's pretentious about it. There's nothing that's, I'm going to try to make this particular chapter of my life, sugarcoat it, make it sound better. You're just like very real about like what kind of brought you through your life to where you are now. And it's amazing. And it's like, okay, so how come, too bad this didn't work out, that like I wasn't leaving right then and we didn't have a chance to just hang out some more. But we found other ways to hang out after that. And it was
to your credit, you didn't get to hang out, but you nurtured the relationship from that point and said, "Hey, let's do stuff." And
totally like, I'm not going to pretend there wasn't something that was selfish about me saying that, because I felt like I've got some stuff to learn here. I've got some stuff to gain. And so like, but I guess that's the way that most people, like you meet somebody, it's like, wait a minute, I want to talk to you some more. I want to like, let's get together. Let's try to plan something. And I love the fact that over these last couple of years, we will talk about like, okay, what's the next thing that we can kind of cook up? You know what I mean? Like, a way to like do something together, or I don't know, work on a project together or something, because it's like it's like what happens to any of us when we meet somebody that we think, okay, I just need more of that person and that energy in my life, and that's for sure what happened to me with you.
That's a perfect segue. Perfect segue. If people are like, "Oh my gosh, Peter, like I want to talk to you. You some more about coming and speaking, coming and playing. I just want to pick your brain on something. How can they get a hold of you? Do you have a website by any chance?" Yeah, that's a rhetorical question too.
Yeah, I sure do. It's just peterleidy.com.
And speaking of such, oh my gosh.
Holy cow, the internet is amazing.
And
Wow.
check that out. The blue background, and then
I'm so sorry, Jason, between the two of us, I feel bad that I'm the only one of the two of us that has a website, because makes me feel really sorry for you.
so people have websites these days. I've never heard about a website. What's that about?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I do have a website. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Good.
yeah. I do. I have one too. Yeah.
Yeah. I hope that people look at it someday, because they won't be sorry.
Sweet. Thank you. So this is about promoting your website at the moment, but thank you for.
Okay. Well, yeah. Thanks, because but I think we need to be careful, because I don't want people to see this and then everybody at the same time goes to my site and it crashes. Like, that would be a real drag.
Yeah. I mean, like there's millions of viewers on right now, and so if it crashes, please send me the bill. I'll fix it.
I'm just going to preemptively send you the bill in case it crashes. Okay. I'm just going to make up a figure. I think we'll both be comfortable with it. It's going to work out fine. Don't worry about it.
Be sure to make it a large figure, okay? Well, it's so great to have you on, my friend. Thanks for all you do to enhance my life and enhance the lives of so many people around you.
Right.
Even though I call you Leidy, sometimes you are pretty amazing, dude.
I've called you things that I can't say publicly, like on the internet.
Okay. That's our time, folks. See y'all later.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks so much. And now we'll have the ending. And I could always coordinate this by a little bit, but I get the chance to randomly talk to you while I find it. It starts with thank you.